Yo, you're watching these Screaming Fish here, people, and once again, I'm here for another video, though this time, after a little while, I'm here with a top 10. Now, my last top 10 was more of a 10 reasons video, you know that video, 10 reasons Independence Day Resurgence sucks. But, this time, I'm here with a more positive version of that, and it is my top 10 DC Comics films. Now, just to get things clear, I've done this list now to pretty much celebrate the release of DC's two newest movies, Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad. So, and also I'd just like to point out, I have not seen every DC movie out there. I haven't even seen the 1970s Superman. I haven't even seen any of the original Superman movies. So I'm just full out warning you there. Also, I put myself a list here, and I put myself like a little rule here. I can only do one per franchise. So what that means is I can only do, if I had one movie, say I had say there was Justice League and then there was Justice League 2, I would only be allowed to have one of the two on here, just in case you didn't know what I mean. But anywho, what I can do is, if there's one Batman franchise and I put one movie on there, and then there's a different Batman franchise and I put a movie from that Batman franchise there, I can do that because that's technically two different franchises. So yeah. So without further ado, let's get into it. My top 10 DC Comics films. So number 10 is The Losers. While admittedly a bit campy, The Losers manages to be both fun and entertaining, with well-shot action sequences, great characters, and for what it's worth, a pretty good story. It's also really funny, with nearly every joke landing spectacularly, and the performances, particularly from Chris Evans, are brilliant. This is a comic movie I'd watch again any day. So, number 9, it weirdly is actually two movies. Number 9 is The Dark Knight Returns Part 1 and 2. I know, it's a bit weird to have two movies on one spot, but The Dark Knight Returns is essentially one movie just split into two parts. Out of all the animated Batman movies, this is one of these are movies that I feel actually do justice to Batman's last few nights of crime fighting, and it also introduced cool new elements like the Sons of Batman and Batman retiring to train a new generation of heroes to defend Gotham. And it has one heck of a cool Batman v Superman fight that I would easily see. I would easily want to see that again more than the Batman v Superman fight in the one we got in the actual Batman v Superman movie. The only reason it's not higher on the list is because while both movies are fantastic, the story has a fairly poorly written version of Superman, which didn't really help the film at all. But on the whole, both these animated masterpieces are films I really recommend you watch, even if they can get a bit bloody sometimes. So, number 8 is Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox. While fairly short, this movie makes it to the 8th spot for a number of reasons. 1. It perfectly shows the consequences of time travel and how badly changing one tiny thing in the past can affect the present. We got really awesome and well developed alternate versions of characters like Batman and Cyborg, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman as well. However, Justin Chambers, I think I'm pronouncing that right, steals the show with his voice performance as the Flash himself. The story is also superbly written, and while some characters are more developed than others, the characters that are developed are both interesting and likable, and one thing I really hope is that the Flashpoint Paradox is the story that is developed for the Flash movie that is coming out quite soon, I hope. So, number 7 is Red. I will say this once. Bruce Willis is amazing in this movie. His performance as Frank Moses is by far one of the best. The action in this movie is also superbly shot and choreographed and very entertaining. The movie also has a good dose of humor that mostly lands on point, and while the story can get confusing at times, it was still a blast from start to finish. Yeah, that was my opinion on Red, with Bruce Willis in it. So, number 6 is Justice League War. Based on the new 52 version of the Justice League, minus Aquaman, of course, the movie perfectly shows how the Justice League first met and how they joined forces to defeat Darkseid. While the story itself can feel a little rushed at times, that doesn't stop the film from shining everywhere else. The interactions between Batman and Green Lantern are some of the best scenes in the movie, and Cyborg was a surprisingly interesting character with a deep backstory that was easy for me to get behind, and the animation itself is just beautiful. Yes, I just said beautiful. So, number 5. Now this is the... quick spoiler warning. This is... well, it's not technically a spoiler, but it's a spoiler for the rest of the list. But this is the last animated movie on this list. And it's probably going to surprise a few people, as most people prefer Batman movies like Batman Mask of Phantasm, for example. However, I have seen that movie, and I do like it. However, there is one movie I think that is better than Mask of Phantasm, and I had to put it on here because, at least at number 5, my bad, because it is truly a brilliant animated movie. So, my number 5 best DC movie is Batman Under the Red Hood, or Red Hood as it's called. Strangely enough, this is the only Batman solo film, minus Phantasm, I've seen that isn't based on his first year as Batman, or his last night, or his relationship with Robin or Batgirl. Instead, this film focuses on the Red Hood storyline. This is the only DC animated movie I've seen where I could actually tell that the writers actually put time and effort into the script, minus Phantasm. The character of Red Hood himself is an incredibly interesting character, and his motivations were as clear as day. It was also cool to see Batman reflecting on his past mistakes and regrets, and the interactions between Batman and Red Hood are particularly moving. This movie still remains my favorite DC animated movie of all time, mainly because it feels like they actually tried here. So, number 4. Number 4 is Watchmen. Honestly, this is the only Zack Snyder directed comic movie I feel he's actually tried to make a good story here. The story was well written with very good characters, and the way they interacted with each other, and while the performances aren't always great, it was indeed Jackie Earle Haley, I think I'm pronouncing that right, who stole the show as Rorschach, and he is by far the most interesting character in the movie. One thing that is literally undeniable is that this movie is visually stunning, and that's pretty much the one thing you cannot complain about when it comes to movies directed by Zack Snyder. So, now we are on to the top 3 people, and admittedly this is gonna surprise a few people, but hey, this is my opinion, and yeah, it's just my opinion. If you got a problem, I really don't care, but please leave your thoughts in the comments below after this video. So, my number 3 favorite DC film is indeed V for Vendetta. This is a movie that really surprised me. I honestly didn't think this film was going to be this good. When I first watched it, I wasn't really expecting much. I didn't think it was going to be that good. However, it just turned out to be brilliant. The main protagonist, V, who is literally just called V, brilliantly portrayed by Hugo Weaving, steals the show. He's an incredibly interesting character, and the suit that he wears itself just looks phenomenal. However, Natalie Portman also gave a surprisingly emotional performance that is definitely one of her best performances. The action is also spectacularly shot, and the film's plot about a lone vigilante inspiring others to rebel against a self-centered dictator is an amazing plot that is literally untouchable in my opinion. So, number 2. Now this is probably gonna surprise a few people, but it probably won't surprise people who have seen my review for it. So yeah, my number 2 favorite DC movie is indeed Suicide Squad. This is probably the most unique of the bunch, as it is about bad guys and not good guys, mostly at least. Will Smith's performance as Deadshot is definitely one of the best he's done, and he was a very interesting character. However, Harley Quinn, played by Margot Robbie, stole the show. It's probably the best portrayal of the character since the Batman animated series. I ended up liking the whole squad itself in the end, and that's how likable all the characters were. The story, in my opinion, was very well written, and it's definitely the most light-hearted DC film next to Red I've ever seen, as well as one of the most comic book accurate superhero movies. Overall, Suicide Squad is an incredibly fun and entertaining experience, and one of my favorite comic book movies of all time, as well as one of my favorite movies of all time. So yes, that is going to surprise a few people that Suicide Squad is at number 2, and I can probably imagine a few people hitting the dislike button, because I am aware that there were quite a few people that did not like Suicide Squad. So, yeah. So, number 1. The number 1 greatest DC film of all time, or should I say greatest DC films, is the Dark Knight trilogy. The Dark Knight trilogy are, in my opinion, the 3 greatest superhero movies ever made. There's never really been a Batman universe that's more realistic than these 3 movies, and Nolan and co. actually made it work. The performances, particularly from Christian Bale as Batman, were phenomenal. Every good guy or bad guy had very clear motivations. The villains, particularly Heath Ledger as the Joker, were developed so well to the point where they were more interesting than the heroes themselves. All 3 of these movies showed that Batman could work inside a more realistic setting in a world with no superpowers, and yes, it worked spectacularly. Admittedly, though, the best thing to come out of all 3 of these movies was Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker. That performance remains, to this day, one of the greatest performances in cinema history, and also, rest in peace to Heath Ledger. So, yeah, guys, those are my top 10 favorite DC films. And yes, about my top 10 favorite Marvel films. I will not be making that list until Doctor Strange has come out, which is the last Marvel film to come out of the year, I'm pretty sure at least. So you won't be seeing that list until November. So, but however, all the DC films this year have come out, and yeah, admittedly, I only really ended up loving one of them. But yeah, so guys, those are my top 10 favorite DC movies of all time. My top 10 Marvel movies will be coming out in November, like I said, after Doctor Strange has come out. And I will indeed see you in the next one. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on Facebook, and I will indeed see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.